like there's an expectation on Pogba to be superhuman or somehow, because there seems to be like a spotlight on him constantly.
Yeah, but
And that
we're no strangers to teams playing badly or teams playing under Mourinho. We were 17th in the league at one point. Hazard was playing not good at all.
No.
Right? His season before the one in which Mourinho was sacked was statistically and generally in terms of aesthetics one of the worst seasons I've ever seen from Hazard. What we didn't do was go into the next season and say, oh, you know what,
We need to do
Hazard
better.
doesn't do enough. I mean, we knew and we still knew right to the end of the season, last season, that Hazard is one of the reasons why we are defensively very vulnerable on our left flank. What we didn't do was say, oh, well, you know what,
He should be
Hazard
defending
needs
more.
to go for the benefit of the team.
Yeah, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't. I still think that it's just. And another aspect that I wanted to sort of cover with Pogba is the fact that he's being isolated in the again in the criticism.
Yeah.
Uh,
When a lot of United players aren't carrying,
carrying
the team.
and it's not like he's the
Or
only
doing
star.
well.
It's not,
Yeah.
not like he's the only one that costs them a lot of money. There is Sanchez, who's not even making the team.
He's not even making the team. There's a lot of guys. I mean,
I feel who's had a
to be
horrible-
fair, these guys have had criticism, but not to the extent that Pogba has had, despite his there's not a lot of for a lot of these guys the criticism is warranted because they've done nothing. For Pogba, I mean, and I'll come back to the Hazard thing, because a lot of fans, if United was saying, well,
Let's keep it that
this
way.
one's a lost cause then. So a lot of fans of United will come up and say, oh, he's trying to make Pogba and Hazard comparisons, whereas, like Hazard's had such a crazy season, Pogba. But I make that comparison because in the season when Chelsea were bad and they finished fifth,
Yeah.
Hazard had, I think, 3 goals and 3 assists or something.
Something like that.
Pogba in this season where United have been bad has had 13 goals and 9 assists and that's just in the league.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, cut the guy some slack is probably what I'm trying to say. And give him the chance to shine when the players around him aren't Jones, Smalling, Luke Shaw, they need to be better. And when Marcus Rashford and Anthony Martial finally start playing to the level that they seem to show potential and be capable of, but they keep getting off the hook because they're supposedly young.
Exactly, and that's another question I wanted to ask you. It's interesting that you went that way. Is that when Pogba came back to United, his first thing that he said out was, I'm back home."
Yeah.
Because he's a United youth boy, and
He had the pick of clubs for him. And if you honestly think that money was the only motivating factor,
really wasn't.
he was made offers from Real and Barcelona as well. He could have gone there and made a shitload of money.
Exactly, and won things as well.
Yeah.
But when he came back, he said that, and you saw his friendships, you saw him gelling with the likes of Lingard and Rashford and Martial for that matter, and I felt that even with that, Pogba is still considered an outsider, not one of the teams. And
Which is surprising because he's an academy kid.
He's an academy kid. He's grown up with the likes of Lingard, and if you compare him to Lingard in the numbers and the stats and the figures, they don't match up in the same level at all. Even though Lingard plays far further up from him, the goals, the assists that Lingard provides are nowhere near what Pogba does. But Pogba gets, and Lingard is still considered to be, a young. Up and
Even though Lingard is older than Pogba.
Lingard is older than Pogba.
But let's put that to the side. Okay, you mentioned Pogba coming back to United, and that sort of reminds me about his time at Juventus and how a lot of United fans seem to say, well, he's never looked as good as he did at Juventus. I would like to preface that by reminding United fans that the quality of players available to Juventus at the time was like there is no comparison between this United midfield and this United attack versus the kind of attacking players and the kind of midfield players and hell, the kind of defenders behind them that Juventus team had. Most importantly, in the middle of the park, you talk about, we allowed Pogba his left-hand side role, But the guys doing like the defensive dirty work in Pogba's time at Juventus, one of them was Arturo Vidal, who is like a whole other level than under Herrera was. Yeah. And as good as Matic is in a sitting back defensive role, Pirlo, the discipline that he showed in maintaining his position. And then the other flip side of it, one of the reasons why Pogba was able to show so many of his qualities, because you had a player like Pirlo playing behind him who was able to find him quickly and in space and make the kind of passes and make the kind of plays that only Pirlo can make. And frankly, when teams were defending Juventus, there was a lot more focus on shutting down Pirlo than there was on Pogba, which allowed Pogba more space. Whereas in this United team, if you shut down Pogba, nobody else is going to do anything. And that's why, once again, you should never expect Pogba to be as free to perform as he is at Juventus. Despite that, he's posted better numbers than he ever did there.
Yeah, exactly.
And those numbers, you might pass them off and say, oh, well, he looks good statistically. Goals and assists are what win you matches.
Exactly. And that's exactly it. And that's why I feel that he needs to be put in a position where these things are more counted. And we should stop looking at what defensively where he lacks and where he doesn't run back or where he loses the ball.
He can be better there. We don't dispute that. But that is not a reason for you to chuck him out of the side. Ask Matic the same questions and you might realize he's also falling just as short. You want to start get rid of the guys that do all of those bad things, but also don't give you the things that Pogba is giving you.
So another example that I always think of when it comes to Pogba is Luka Modric.
Yeah.
Right now, the current Ballon d'Or, he's in the midfield. How many goals has he really scored in the last week? I think he scored like 3 for.
He's not a goal scorer.
He's not a goal scorer.
He's not an assister. He's not a defensively brilliant guy. If you match his interceptions and tackles and duels and aerial duels and etc. with Pogba, you might be surprised that he comes up short. Hell, he might even come up short in terms of the amount of runs that he does on the pitch.
Exactly. So why is it that Modric...
He's playing in a good team that only asks him to do the things that he's good at, and he is judged on the basis of that.
Exactly. That's been my point.
Casemiro's the guy they point the gun at when Real Madrid are vulnerable in midfield.
Exactly, because they don't expect that from Modric. Modric has a specified role, and he does that brilliantly.
And we're not comparing Pogba and Modric.
Exactly.
We're just trying to say that judge the guy on what he brings you to the table and try, and if he is the guy that stands out in every possible way in your team, perhaps you should model your team around guys like him as opposed to guys like Rashford or guys like Herrera.
That's exactly it, because it's just you have a player of that much quality and you're still trying to put him in positions where you're trying to weigh him down by giving him responsibilities.
And I know that a lot of United fans might come up and say, well, we're going to start playing the 4-2-3-1 this year and we're looking good in preseason and all of that. But if it falls flat on your face again, know that you hadn't signed any big players, but you deliberately went into preseason and decided to play 4-2-3-1 instead of a 4-3-3 or build your team in accordance with that. If you still don't perform, all right, maybe you need to look at more than just Pogba. Starting with the guy who is charged with making sure that the quality players under his tenure perform, and it is no coincidence that Pogba, and I would say Pogba has been the exception to the rule, but every single big player who has gone to United, who has shown potential and capability, like Sanchez, like Mata, like Lukaku, they have all fallen short consistently. Di Maria before him, it's not a coincidence that the big guys aren't performing there. In fact, it's not a coincidence that no attacking player really has been posting up good numbers there ever since Ferguson has left. And I think that is something that I would like to leave United fans with.
Yeah, really sure.
And maybe they should appreciate the one guy that is actually giving them respectable numbers.
Exactly, because I really hope, and if they don't want him, and I'm waiting for Chelsea to sign him after the transfer ban.
With due respect, we loved Park Ji-sung and what he did. We loved Dan Fletcher. But I think a lot of United fans seem to forget that they didn't play as starters for most of the season.
Exactly.
Jobbers are there for a job, and they're called jobbers for a reason.
Pogba is not a jobber. Pogba is a superstar. Pogba puts numbers on the board, and he needs to be looked at for those numbers.
And I think a lot of United fans may not have, in the modern era of football, appreciated Roy Keane as much as they did back in the day.
Yeah, exactly. It's easy to lament on...
I think a lot of fans might have just been pissed off about the amount of times he gets suspended in the modern game. But we're not here to talk about Roy Keane. This was a great show, Hamza. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I hope you guys enjoyed this. We'll be putting up shows like this as much as possible.
Please engage with us, debate with us. We would love to hear the United fan point of view.
The reason we're doing this is we want to engage with football fans all over.
Yeah, we want to talk to you guys. We don't even care about your likes and subscribes. We want you to come on and argue with us on the thing that we love talking about.
But do like and subscribe so that we know if people are...
He's also in this for the money, but not me.
No money, really. Like and subscribe, comment, tell us what we're doing wrong, tell us what we're doing right, tell us what you think should be done.
Video quality will improve and set will also improve, so give us a little bit of time.
And maybe some money then.
No, we don't accept donations.
Thank you so much, guys. Have a great day.